Welcome to Etihad Focus, your home for the latest match updates, transfer news, breaking rumours, and exclusive training insights. If you love football and want fast, accurate updates, you're in the right place. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to stay connected with all the action only on Etihad Focus. Business as usual, Man City keep buying, selling and earning. 3 years since 115 charges dropped, Manchester City have waited 3 years for a verdict into serious allegations that they deny, but they have been busy in the meantime, buying and selling players as well as making sponsorship deals. Pep Guardiola used his platform in his press conference on Tuesday to go well beyond Manchester City, football and sport. Choosing to speak out on some of the biggest and most divisive world issues, including US and Middle Eastern politics, meant his words and his face were catapulted across the internet to many millions more than would be interested in Phil Foden's form. That meant that also winging its way around the world on everyone's screens was a bottle of Lucozade next to Guardiola, a result of the multi-year partnership with the club that had been announced that morning. City have been paid very good money by the UK's #1 sports drink brand and, judging on day one alone, have already shown they are capable of giving brand exposure that few clubs in world football can. There is a vanishingly small number of people who could have expected such a scene as we reach 3 years since the Premier League rushed out over 100 breaches of their competition rules that threatened to rip apart the foundations at the Etihad. It was expected that such serious allegations, effectively accusing the Blues and their auditors and partners of fraud, would not be made lightly, and many in the game who had grown jealous and tired of the formidable houses built at City under their Emirati owner licked their lips at the prospect of it all crumbling to sand. It may well yet, but 3 years on, we still await an outcome. It is 15 months since the 3-man independent panel who will give the verdict finished hearing all of the evidence, yet nobody has a clue about when a decision will be made, despite many people committing guesses to print. In that void, City have angered rivals even more by winning the treble in 2023 and then making history the following year by becoming the first team in English history to win 4 consecutive league titles. There has even been time for some of that bad blood to dissipate with Liverpool, who felt most aggrieved at missing out on titles in the era of Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp, enjoying the catharsis of a title win in 2025 and a parade to go with it. Yet there is still a lingering stain around City that crops up whenever they sign players or enjoy success, as if they are still benefiting at their own expense of others from old practices that people just assume or hope were illegal. The unproven charges have become a convenient excuse for anyone associated with rivals to explain away shortcomings at their own clubs. There was once giddy hysteria that City would be instantly ruined, with Guardiola, Erling Haaland and the rest deserting a sinking ship. It even got to the embarrassing point where departures of kitmen were treated as the smoking gun that City insiders knew they were guilty. The depressing reality for such fantasists is that none of that has happened. City have refused to comment on the allegations beyond an initial statement. But one phrase that has come out of the Etihad from the very first week everything changed in February 2023 is that it has been business as usual. Their summer transfer window that year was a bit of a mess, not because of the charges, but because of the treble. The year after, they barely spent any money, not because they were stockpiling cash for an imminent expulsion from the league, but because Guardiola trusted the squad that he had. The arrivals of Marc Guéhi and Antoine Semenyo last month take City's spending over the last 3 windows to around £430 million and nearly £700 million since the charges were announced, not because they are trying to beat a transfer embargo, but because Guardiola's call in 2024 went spectacularly badly and a whole team had to be replaced. It's the same with sales. Cole Palmer, £42.5 million, and Julian Alvarez, £64 million, rising to £82 million, were sold in the summers of 2023 and 2024 because they wanted more playing time, and Kyle Walker, Jack Grealish and Kevin De Bruyne are among the big earners to have moved on, at least on loan if not permanent, at a natural point in their playing career rather than drastic decisions. Just as City have spent in these 3 years, they have also recouped £474 million in sales to make for a net spend that is among the biggest but nowhere near the top in the Premier League. As well as bringing players in who seemingly aren't fussed about the charges, City have also handed out a number of contract extensions. Guardiola was a major coup in November 2024, and 2 months later, Haaland agreed a groundbreaking new deal that keeps him at the Etihad until 2034. "I haven't thought of that or anything," the Norwegian superstar said when asked about the potential consequences of the charges. "I am confident that the club know what." Manchester City reminded of uncomfortable truth despite easing into Carabao Cup final. Manchester City booked their place in the 2026 Carabao Cup final thanks to a 3-1-5-1 on aggregate victory over Newcastle United at the Etihad Stadium. Pep Guardiola's desperation speaks volumes when it comes to the case for his Manchester City defence. Guardiola is hopping mad that new signing Marc Guehi remains ineligible for the Carabao Cup final against Arsenal on March 22nd. A little-known rule has presented Guardiola with a big and well-known problem. EFL rules were tweaked this season, which means players can turn out for 2 different teams in the competition in a single campaign. That meant Antoine Semenyo started both legs of City's semi-final against Newcastle United. But because Guehi arrived at the Etihad in a potential £30 million deal after the first leg, he was ruled out of the second one and subsequent showpiece final next month. The time restriction has come at a price for Guehi. But what could the cost be to Guardiola in his quest to win a historic quadruple this season at the expense of his rivals from North London? Guardiola is discovering that there are some things money just can't buy, like a place in his team for a major cup final, for arguably his best centre-back. City cruised past Newcastle in the 2-legged semi-final. But while the scoreline suggests it was a mismatch, nothing could be further from the truth. James Trafford was one of City's best players in both halves. The goalkeeper came in from the cold to produce a red-hot performance. He denied Joe Willock and Anthony Gordon with superb saves, while producing an even better one to keep out Sven Botman's header. After the break, Jon Wissa missed a golden chance to score, while there was nothing Trafford could do to stop Anthony Elanga from netting a consolation goal for the visitors towards the end. A combination of some fine goalkeeping and woeful finishing failed to expose a City defence, which is still not functioning well enough to win big titles. Arsenal might not be scoring goals for fun this season, but still have more than enough guile and quality to punish Guardiola's back four. Manchester City makes Bayern Munich boss Vincent Kompany #1 target to replace Pep Guardiola. Will Man City convince the FC Bayern boss to leave? According to a report from Football Insider journalist Wayne Vasey, Manchester City has made Bayern Munich head coach Vincent Kompany its #1 target to succeed Pep Guardiola. Vincent Kompany is Man City's #1 target to replace Pep Guardiola, sources have told Football Insider. There is a growing sense within Premier League circles that the Spaniard, 55, will leave after a decade in charge at the end of the season. City have started to plan for the possibility of his departure by holding preliminary talks with potential managerial replacements. Enzo Maresca, who worked at City as Guardiola's assistant, informed Chelsea that he had spoken to representatives of City and Juventus before being sacked by the London club last month. Xabi Alonso will also be of strong interest to the Premier League giants following his departure from Real Madrid. But Kompany is said by sources to be City's first choice, although luring him from Bayern Munich may be an almost impossible task. One factor in their favour is Kompany's strong emotional attachment to the club he skippered to multiple trophies during the best days of his playing career. Earlier this week, Matt Law of the Daily Telegraph reported that sources who work closely with the club do not expect him to leave, even if the Manchester City post becomes available. Have things changed that quickly?